But I always say everything you want is on the other side of the send button. So trust me, just keep pressing that send button.
Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, co-CEO of Vimy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss out on future content. Now let's get started with the episode. Hello listeners, welcome to another episode of Mastering E-commerce Marketing. Today's guest is Gloria Chou, award-winning PR strategist, former US diplomat, and host of the top-rated small business PR podcast. Gloria has helped thousands of founders land features in outlets like the New York Times, Vogue, and Forbes, all without expensive agencies, connections, or big following. She's here to show us how product-based businesses can hack their own PR, get massive visibility, and never pay for ads again. Gloria, that sounds really promising. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. Gloria, before we get started, if you could pick like 3 words that matter most to you, what would they be?
Well, the 3 words that I always say to my community as well is seen, heard, and valued. I feel like as humans, we have this intrinsic desire to be seen, right? It's a powerful act to witness and be witnessed. To be heard, right? We want our expression to matter. And I think at the end of the day, we want to know if we're bringing value. And so that could be for my personal life, but also for the impact that we make. So seen, heard, and valued are those 3 words.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for sharing. So how organic PR can be more effective than social media, influencer marketing, or even paid ads?
Yeah, so I want to just preface by saying there's a lot of misconception around what PR is, right? Because a lot of people think it's for celebrities or politicians. And, raise your hand if you've gotten that scammy DM that's like, I'll feature you in some random 40 under 40. That's not what we're talking about here. So what I'm talking about is organic earned PR where you're not paying to get featured. So if you have an amazing product and you're on like a Martha Stewart Living or an Apartment Therapy, you're not paying the journalist. And so because of that, it is the highest reach and the highest credibility and the longest lasting because it's not an ad, right? It gives you SEO backlinks that an ad never will. So when I talk about PR, I just want to preface that's what I mean by it. And the reason why it's better than any ad you can run, any flea market, is that it's the only sustainable way to keep getting traffic and getting in front of your audience while getting SEO and credibility. So SEO is really important. We know that in the day of AI and ChatGPT, I can write 60 blogs right now. And so Google is actually prioritizing not blogs, because now with AI you can write it, is those powerful backlinks from reputable sources. So if I'm featured in a Forbes or a New York Times, right, that's going to signal to Google that I have a very high domain authority and reputation. So just from the SEO point of view alone, I think there's no better marketing activity for a product owner than PR. But for the longest time, it's been inaccessible. The industry tells us, well, you got to pay an agency $10,000 a month for 6 months, or you don't get featured. So today I'm really excited to talk about how we can kind of break through those gates and really create an accessible PR strategy for us, even if we don't have a huge budget.
Interesting. So how the breakthrough strategy works? Take us through
that. So I want to preface by saying, I'm not your typical PR gal. I have never worked a day in my life in any PR agency. So I actually had to Google New York Times newsroom and start dialing the operator with sweaty, shaky hands until I got so many phones slammed in my face. I started to pick up on patterns on when the journalist would actually say, okay, tell me more. And so I created this framework, this formula that anyone, I don't care what product you make, that you can get through to the other side of the send button. So the journalist who's never even heard of you and get featured. So PR at its core, right? Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. PR is writing a relevant pitch and sending it to the right person. Now, notice how I said relevant pitch. I didn't say newsworthy or a good pitch because there's no such thing as a newsworthy product. I've written stuff for bath salts and towels and they get featured. But what the journalist cares about is relevancy. And I think for a lot of founders, we don't think in terms of relevancy. We think in terms of benefits and features, right? All of those things that we're taught as founders. So I'm asking you to take off that hat and let's think about what is news, right? What is a news cycle? Right now at the time of recording, it's Mother's Day, it's Mental Health Awareness Day, it's spring and summer. So think about what items that you have that are perfect for this season. So do you make something that is super heavy? You're not going to pitch it in the summer. If you make something, right, that is like spring and citrusy and light and fun, that's perfect. If you make something that is perfect for Mother's Day, now would be the time to pitch it. And you don't have to make 60 different items. We've had people with only one item, one SKU, but get featured all year round by just repurposing the angle. So that's what I mean. So when you think about relevancy, think about the seasons, think about the calendar, holidays that we have. And then also interesting out of the box things like housewarming gift or for the newly divorced dad in your life, right? Something really funny like that. Or for the, a germaphobe, a vegan clean freak in your life. So there's so many different categories of gift guides, of shopping guides, in addition to just the holidays. And so that's really what I mean by there's a blue ocean out there.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by relevant.
Interesting. So how do you find those relevant topics? I mean, I know there are like platforms that you can research, but what's the process to identify and how to craft your pitch to make it relevant?
Yeah. So the relevancy, we all know that because we're just in society, right? So I talked about holidays. I talked about seasonality. So there's also like pop culture. So there's, for example, White Lotus is a very famous show here in the US. And everybody was going to Europe. And so one of the pitches I wrote was how to find the best swimsuit for your White Lotus Italian vacation. Taylor Swift had a huge concert. And so everybody was buying pink and rhinestones. And so a lot of people were kind of riding the coattails of that as well. So think about any celebrity trends. Think about anything happening on TikTok or Instagram. If you make food and wine, there's a lot of new ingredients that are interesting. That's what I mean by relevancy. And just be a good steward of the news. Ask your customers, what are you looking for? What kind of fun things are you doing? That's relevancy. So now you have the relevancy. Now let's talk about how do you actually put pen to paper and write the pitch.
Yep.
And this is a very unnatural act because nobody's taught how to do this, right? But my CPR framework is the way that you can get a journalist's attention who has never heard of you. So C stands for credibility, P stands for point of view, R stands for relevant. And now if anyone is multitasking, come back to us because this is very important. In the email pitch, this is how you write it to get featured. If the journalists have never heard of you, okay? Start with the subject line. The subject line is what gets it open. Do not put your name, your product, your company, or the word pitch in the subject line because it's irrelevant and the journalist knows that you're pitching them. What you want to do is use that valuable real estate to say something very specific. For example, okay, 3 best skincare ingredients for the vegan mom in your life. You see how that is very specific. Or something like best scent-free candles for clean homes under $25. So the subject line should almost read like an article that you would click on. And if you have samples, put samples available as well. So that's really what I mean. So let's talk about the email. Don't start with how's the weather? How are you? Don't waste time. The journalist gets very busy. So what you want to do is start with the R in CPR, which stands for relevance. Because what is news if it's not relevant? So start with the season as your customers are looking for Mother's Day, as parents are looking for back to school solution. You see where I'm getting at.
Just
right?
providing context, right? That's relevance appropriately.
Yeah. So start with the context, not with your story, your life story, your autobiography. No one can then. Yeah. And then go into the point of view, which in CPR, the P is point of view. I like 3 bullet points. I like to have bullet points in my emails because it makes a journalist feel easy and light. Nothing is more off-putting than opening an email and it's just 5 big blocks of text. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the point of view is why your product is perfect for that relevancy. So for example, if it's Valentine's Day, you can talk about why your product is perfect, right? For romance or for whatever that is. So those are 3 bullet points. And then you conclude with the credibility, which is 1 or 2 sentences about how you founded it. Maybe if you won any awards, maybe if this is a fan favorite, maybe if you're sold out all the time at your farmer's market. And don't go crazy here. This is just 1 or 2 sentences, okay? And then very important, any product pitch, you need to have the price point, where it's being shipped. So is it shipped locally? Is it shipped to order? How many days? Where can I find it? Is it on Amazon? Is it on Etsy? Or is it at Target or on your website, right? And then also I need probably up to 3 low resolution photos. Don't attach a brochure. That's going to trigger their spam. And so that's really all the nooks and crannies of how to write a pitch. And please use a hyperlink. So instead of the attachment, you can say, you can find out more about us here and just put a hyperlink. So that's really a golden pitch.
Yes, it's very, very focused. It's also very respectful for the reader, right? And just straight to the point without any fluff. So love that. And what's the expectation? What happened next? If it works well and it resonates, right, with our journalist, so it's going to be like a insert in one of the articles. It's going to be a dedicated article. What's the target for that?
So a lot of times with products, we don't need a film interview, and there's not a lot of back and forth. So all they need is the pitch. And if you have all of the things that I just said, you're going to have to come back to this episode, the journalist has what they need, so just put it in a feature or a shopping roundup. So we talked about, remember, PR is two things. It's writing a relevant pitch and sending it to the right person. So we talked about writing the relevant pitch with CPR method. Now let's talk about who to send it to. So it's not going to be the editor at Vogue or info at, right? You want to look for someone with the word commerce or shopping in their name. So the commerce writer, the shopping editor, those are the people, the writers who are in the position of recommending products to their readers. And they might recommend many different products. They might recommend anything from wellness to food to whatever, but those are the key words. And here are 4 ways that you can start to find journalists and make your own media database. Now, obviously, in my program, we have an updated database of 125 categories, but you can start to do this on your own. So the first tool I love is Perplexity.ai. It's a free AI tool. It's better than Google, and it's a web search tool. So you can simply type in, I make a candle under $100. Which magazines usually features home decor gift guide? Boom, it'll give you all of the answers. And then you can go down a rabbit hole and say, okay, now give me the names of the shopping or commerce editor at these places. So then you can start to kind of make your own thing. So that's tip number 1. Number 2 is sign up for sourceofsources.com. It's free. And every day you get pinged with tons of journalists requesting to interview certain people. It's not all going to fit your, industry, but we have a lot of people. We had someone just get into Forbes the other day because I sent her something and it was relevant to her. So that's something you should sign up for. So Source of Sources. The third one is HARO, which stands for Help a Reporter Out. Similar to Source of Sources, journalists are asking to interview people. They give you the deadline. They give you their email address. And it's as simple as just hitting reply on that email. Those are the 3rd one. Now, the 4th one, which is actually, I think, really, really good, is Substack. Have you heard of Substack? Okay, so Substack is a treasure trove, is an absolute goldmine to find journalists who are freelance writers. And what they're doing is that they're actually prioritizing their Substack readers before anyone else's pitches. So if you subscribe to one person's Substack, and by the way, Substack's very intuitive UX. If you find one journalist, it's going to pop up with an accordion to recommend 5 others. And they're telling you, this week, here's my assignment. Gifts under $150. Here's my email. Boom, right? So those are 4 free and really good ways so you can start to connect with journalists today.
Interesting. And this will get you a list of how many, like 50 to 100? I mean, how many emails you want to send over time? And just if someone is putting a resource that's internally dedicated for this, or they want to work with you, whatever, what is the usual frequency of throughput that you recommend in terms of initiating those activities?
Yeah. Well, so what I told you was very kind of the fundamental, like first level, right? If you don't do anything else. But what I do in my program is, okay, let's respond to those journalist requests, but also let's be active in pitching ourselves as well, because we don't want to just wait to see what's out there, right? So what you need to do is find out all the journalists who are writing your beat. If you make home electronics, find out everyone. And obviously we have that in our program. But what you want to do is write a really good CPR pitch and then send it to that list. So I always say you should send at least to 50 journalists. And you can batch send, you can schedule send, right? And you don't have to personalize every single one, but maybe for like the top 10, so Forbes, Vogue, all the really high ranking magazines, it will really help you if you can personalize the first sentence. So something like, hey, I saw that you wrote about the 5 Pilates tools for moms last year. I loved it so much. Thank you so much. Are you doing the same this year? It could be a compliment. It could be acknowledged, right? So that's going to get your pitch even better. And here's a pro tip for your people. Before you send out any emails, please install an email tracking device so that you know if it's being opened or not. If it's being opened multiple times, it's a really good sign. It means that they like it. They just don't know where to put it. So that is where you go in with the follow-up. I love this article. I shared this article. Like, they're people. Journalists are people, and you're trying to connect with them. So stroke their ego a little bit.
Sure. Any specific guidance towards, holiday season or anything specific on obviously there are seasonality also in press. How do you recommend, during this time of the year? Is it different or is it the same?
Yeah. So if we're talking about timeline, right, in terms of when to pitch, if you're talking about like physical paper magazine that I can touch, that's 6 months in advance. But for most of my clients, they're not really looking for that because they want the SEO backlinks. So if you want to get into like a digital article, like a Well and Good or like apartment therapy, that's usually 4 to 6 weeks before the holiday. However, if you want to get into like a Christmas gift guide, which there's just a huge Q4 push for that, I would start around end of September to October. So that's when I help my clients really get their pitch super right. We figure out, okay, you have maybe three or four buckets or categories that you can pitch for. So it could be gifts for mom, it could be stocking stuffers, it could be gifts under $25. So at any one point, you could probably qualify for 3 to 4 different categories of gifts, right? And you want to be able to shoot your shot in all of them. So you want to have your pitches ready, and that way you can start sending, I want to say probably no later than mid-October, end of October. But there are always last minute gift guides, right? Raise your hand if you're a last minute person like me. So if you have a product that is digital or ships very quickly, ready on demand, then you can definitely pitch for that as well. And there's also gift guides about how to spend your holiday gift card. So just when you think, oh, I missed the boat, nope, there is always a season, a reason, and opportunity for you to get featured.
Yeah. And what's some of the common mistakes you see, like, for example, brands or retailers do, when pitching, products or, roundups?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that they just don't do it, and they spend all their money on influencers or ads. And there's no SEO with that. And also with the influencer, like they could be kicked off tomorrow from the, your basically your reputation is tied to that person, and that's volatile, right? And so I always want your readers, your listeners to think, what is the most sustainable and highest leverage activity I can do as a CEO? And for me, PR is, because with one feature, I can turn that into 3 Instagram reels. I can put it in my blog. I can put it in my newsletter. I can tell investors, so there's so many ways you can repurpose one PR feature. But I think also the main mistake is just pitching too much about your benefits and features and not thinking about the relevancy. Because a lot of times we have like our product that we love and it's our baby, but that might not be the best product for this season, right? So you need to just be objective and think, what is actually perfect for this season? Another mistake I see is that there's not like a good follow-up. So everything is in the follow-up. And a lot of times you send one email and you go hide in the bathroom because, we don't know how to do this, but you need to follow up. And the people that get featured actually end up following up. Now, here's a tip about following up. You don't have to sound like beating a dead horse, like, hey, following up, hey, following up. What you can do in the following, and by the way, I recommend you follow up once a week, once per week for up to 3 weeks. Okay. So the way that you can follow up is say, hey, by the way, since I last emailed you, we just sold out of this product, or, hey, like a new angle or a new season. That's really the best way. And you can also compliment them and say, hey, since the last time I pitched, I love this article that you wrote and I shared it with my company. Right? That is great because they want readers too. So make it a win-win for them. So follow up is key.
Yes. And in those follow-up, you need to come from a place of strength, right? Just provide new information or share something new, because if you say, hey, I'm just following up, or didn't have a chance to check my email, you come from a very, very low place, and people will not respect you probably. So I love that follow-up with just sharing something new and see that you're making progress, and it's worthwhile, talking to you, right? So when you work with founders, how long do you usually recommend for them to spend, right, on PR?
Yep. So we haven't talked about kind of the press release like announcement. So that's a separate thing. But if you don't have anything new to announce and you just want those, PR things, you're pitching evergreen, I would recommend that you spend at least 15 to 20 minutes a day just either following 5 or 10 journalists or perfecting your pitch. And once you have like a good 25, 30 journalists, then you have your good CPR pitch. And I do have a service where I help them write it from end to end. Then sending it is easy. And then you can delegate this to an intern or an assistant to just monitor who's opening it and follow up. But the most important thing is getting that pitch right. Because if you have a really solid CPR pitch, it's as easy as swapping Mother's Day with Father's Day. And you have that pitch that you can keep repurposing over and over and over. Right? So that's really what I mean. But we haven't talked about the announcement part, whereas like if you have a new product, what do you do? So let me know if you want to get into that.
Sure. Let's go for it.
Yeah. So have you heard of a press release?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So if you have a time sensitive announcement, right? You're launching something, you have a new board member, you have a celebrity spokesperson, you have whatever that is, you might consider using a press release. Now, a press release is owned media. So we have paid media, which are ads. We have earned media, which is PR. And then we have own media. So it's our own media that we're publishing out into the newswire. It's still going to be indexed as news. It's still going to give us SEO. But the great thing about the press release is that it really establishes you in your own category. And so a lot of people use a press release to protect their IP, especially if they're the first to do something in their category. And so press release is a great way to say, well, I actually did this first. So you can't say that you did it first. You can only be the first one, right? So we have someone who made a children's product, but with a really interesting design. And she was the first to patent it. So she came out and issued the press release. And funny enough, 3 days later, a huge multi-billion-dollar toy company came out with something similar. But because we did the press release, she could still say that she was the first to do it. So that's really what I mean by press release. So the strategy with the press release is not just to write a press release and put it onto the newswire and wait. The strategy is to kind of dangle it in front of the journalist's face, right? And kind of be like, hey, you cover this space and we're doing something that's going to really change up the space. We're really driving it forward, or we're really closing a gap on a problem. We're going live with the press release in 2 weeks. Because you're one of our top choice outlets to cover this, would you be interested to learn more? You see how that's a really good and strong call to action. You're giving them a timeline and you're also giving them a sneak peek. So that's what I recommend with press releases. And I help clients do this on a VIP day where we kind of go through their entire messaging and flesh it out. But don't just issue a press release without using it as a conversation starter first.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And how do you measure success of such a, and let's talk about the organic PR piece, right? First, how do you measure success of such activity, such campaign?
Well, the best way is through SEO, right? So like your Google Analytics should be telling you where your traffic is coming from. And if you have powerful backlinks from those, you should start to see your domain score rise higher and higher and higher. So that's one way. Another way is a lot of times these magazines now ask for affiliates. So it means that if they recommend you on a Forbes and someone buys, right, then you're going to give them a commission. It's still not pay to play because it's still a win-win situation. So you can measure it that way as well. And there's a lot of affiliate programs where you can actually track how many sales are coming from that article as well.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit about your services and what you provide. And I'd love you if you can share more information about that.
Yeah, so I'm really like a non-agency. I really think that the agency model is broken and most companies don't get the highest ROI for what they pay. So I really help you get what you need, but then I help train your team to take it in-house so that you don't have to keep paying the agency over and over. So I do a VIP day, and I've done this for a lot of startups that have gone on to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. I used to be a Techstars mentor and Y Combinator mentor. So if you have an announcement, if you have a new product variation, something that you want to announce, I highly recommend you check out my VIP day. So that's gloriachoupr.com/VIP. That's Gloria, PHOUPR.com/VIP. And then I have my general PR program, right? That's for evergreen pitching as well. So that's 6 months in a group program. I bring in the journalists, I give you the database, and that's if you don't have anything to announce. So those are really the two ways I work with people.
Yes, because marketeers today and founders, they have so many things to do, right? Their job obviously just managing the company, but also on the marketing side, it's so confusing, right? Because you have, as you said, influencers, you have paid media, right? And then you have organic content. TikTok is just getting a lot of traction these days, but all those communities, let's call them communities or different markets, are getting more and more competitive. It's more difficult to break through, right? Obviously, a lot of discussion about video and about how to do things right, and it's kind of very difficult, and to for a CMO or for any marketeer out there and founders to figure out what to do. And marketing today just become this profession of just trying things, right? And just check what's working and what's not, and just trying to analyze the data and see if it's worth continuing the investment, right? And I love that approach, because if you do it right in the methodology that you've shared, you have an audience out there, let's say the journalists that are also eager for information. They need to fill out also the articles and information they need to deliver. And just for them, it's also quite challenging to find the right story. And so what's the snowball effect? I mean, if you land just one article, how you evolve from there? What's the impact on your company? How do you see the snowball effect just ramping up?
Yeah, we know from research that companies that sustain market volatility are the ones that are invested in multi-channel visibility. And so PR is a big part of that, right? Because your Instagram can be hacked, can be restricted, and ads are not really sustainable. But one thing we didn't talk about in terms of pitching, I would like to allude to, is that a lot of your companies are sitting on so much data. And so pitching something that's like a white paper or consumer insights, it's oftentimes a really great way, especially if you want to get into like a tech crunch, right? So if you have data and if you survey your customer, use that data. It immediately puts you in a position of authority to tell the journalist, I have information on my audience that nobody else does. And they immediately will want to call you for future things because then you become the expert. So that actually is a really great way, especially if you do have the bandwidth and you're making quite a lot of revenue to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Obviously,
if you have data, then it's something in addition to just sharing information about your product. And even if you make it relevant and if you can provide some data and statistics to support that, they're also very, very powerful. I know you work a lot also, Gloria, with a lot of female founders, right?
Yeah, so most of my product owners are women founders, and it's a really, really beautiful community. And they're all making something that, from a need that they had. And it's great to see people solve problems in that way.
Yeah. And your approach, I mean, you prefer this like a done for you or done with you or approach, or what's your take?
Yeah, I would say mine is done with you. And then I teach your team how to take it in-house so you don't have to keep paying an agency over and over and over, because that's the thing. It's not that PR agencies don't have an ROI. It's that for the cost of engaging with them for 6 months, obviously the ROI compared to that is very low. So how do we solve for that? We solve for that by giving you what you need in-house so that you can maybe pay the first month, which is what I'm charging, but then you get the results for ongoing.
Yeah. And so first, Gloria, this was really a masterclass. So thank you so much for that. I think it's, you showed up with such a great values and information. So what do you recommend, founders out there that never, spend time or don't have the experience, don't have the connection, to get started? What's the first step they need to take?
Well, I always say everything you want is on the other side of the send button. So trust me, just keep pressing that send button. First you get a no, but then you start getting yes. And the compound effect is huge because a lot of these journalists are freelancers and they write for multiple outlets. And so your chances of doing featured again are very high. I will say the first step is to watch my free PR masterclass. I show you exactly a screenshot of a CPR pitch. I got someone featured 12 times. You can watch that for free. Have your team watch it. It's at gloriachoupr.com/masterclass. That's Gloria, PHOU, PR.com/masterclass. That's the very first step. And then if you're interested in taking the next step, follow me on Instagram, book a call with me. But people get so many results just watching that free PR masterclass.
Great. And we will definitely share this in the show notes or any other information that you will share with us. Gloria, anything else we've missed you want to add?
I will say that it's not about your Instagram following. So I always ask the journalist, do you care about Instagram following? And they always say, no, it's not a popularity contest. So it's not about that. What they do care about, right, is if you have the relevant product for the season. And even if you have a tiny following, if you have just like 1 or 2 good photos, that's all that matters. And adequate packaging, those are way more important than how many followers you have.
Yes. Gloria, again, really appreciate the time. It was really, really interesting. I learned a lot, and I'm sure also our listeners. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. And if you could share this with just one person, it would make all the difference. Are you looking to accelerate your sales with the power of shoppable video? Explore Vimeo, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimeo at www.vimeo.net, that's VIMMI.net, where you can start with a free-for-life package. We appreciate your support and look forward for bringing you more valuable insight in our next episode.